It's a road less traveled, a journey into the heart of nature worth taking. Verdant forests, spectacular views, open grasslands, a rich biodiversity, and glimpses of the shy animal, the deer. These are Maharashtra's unexplored forest trails, the wildlife sanctuaries at Sagareshwar, Chandoli, and Radhanagari. The Sagareshwar Deer Sanctuary is also known as the Yashwantrao Chauhan Sagareshwar Wildlife Sanctuary, named after Maharashtra's first Chief Minister. The Sagareshwar Deer Sanctuary has an interesting history. Spread over 10 square kilometers, it is definitely the smallest sanctuary in the state of Maharashtra and can be easily visited over a day by jeep, which can be hired locally. Before independence, Sagareshwar was a thickly wooded forest with a lot of flora and fauna and smaller animals like the hyena, jackal, wolf, and hare. It has never been home to the bigger carnivores like the leopard or the tiger, and neither did it have any deer. The deer here have been artificially introduced, and today there is a thriving population of black buck, sambar, the spotted deer, and the barking deer.
यहाँ पे बायोडाइवर्सिटी बहुत ज़्यादा है। आप बहुत सारे स्नेक्स देख सकते हैं, रेप्टाइल्स देख सकते हैं। लगभग 142 स्पीसीज़ बर्ड्स की आइडेंटिफाई की हुई है यहाँ पे। उसके बाद बहुत सारे बटरफ्लाइज है, जो पेंटेड लेडी करके एक माइग्रेटरी बटरफ्लाई वो यहाँ पे पाई जाती है। इंडिया का सबसे छोटा बटरफ्लाई ग्रास ज्वेल वो भी यहाँ पे पाया जाता है। इस तरह बहुत सारे एनिमल्स हम देख सकते हैं।
During the British Raj, Sagareshwar was a thick forest, but after independence, a growing population led to the trees being cut, and hunting and grazing meant the forest was about to disappear. It's then when one man stepped forward. A man called D.M. Mohite, a resident of a village close by, took up the task of planting trees and protecting this forest. He started his work in 1970, and many people joined him in his conservation efforts. It took him 15 years, but he revived the forest. Today, Sagareshwar is the only man-made sanctuary in the country. In 1985, Sagareshwar was declared a wildlife sanctuary. Mohite's efforts had paid off. Sagareshwar has no perennial source of water, but ponds and watering holes are regularly replenished by the forest department. Sagareshwar is a standing testimony to how human beings can help conserve and preserve nature. Sagareshwar today is a popular tourist attraction. Visitors come here to see the deer, of course, and the flora and fauna of the area. Another interesting tourist attraction at Sagareshwar is a hike to the top of the hill, which leads to a spectacular view of the countryside below and the river Krishna as it meanders through fields and farmlands. Sagareshwar also has a lot of cultural significance. An ancient Shiv temple in the middle of the forest attracts a number of devotees. It is believed that the name Sagareshwar is derived from this temple.
जो भी पर्यटक आते हैं उनके लिए यहाँ पे रेस्ट हाउस है, बाम्बू कुटी है, रहने के लिए अच्छी खास ये किए हुए, और घूमने के लिए बस की भी यहाँ पे सेवा उपलब्ध है। तो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा पर्यटक आए और इसका बहुत ज़्यादा मतलब इसका आस्वाद लेना चाहिए पर्यटक ने, क्योंकि हम अगर सांगली डिस्ट्रिक्ट का पूरा अगर कंसिडर करेंगे तो यहाँ पे प्रोटेक्टेड एरिया कुछ भी नहीं है, बस एक सागरेश्वर है।
from Sagareshwar to the Sahyadri Tiger Reserve. A complete shift in ecological dynamics. The landscape of the Sahyadri Tiger Reserve is spread over the mighty Western Ghats. The sanctuary is itself spread over 1100 square kilometers in area, taking in dense forests, open grasslands and water bodies like the Chandoli Dam, the Koyna Dam and Vasansagar Reservoir. The Sahyadri Reserve is a crucial ecosystem and it is very important for the water security of Maharashtra as it forms and protects many water channels and reservoirs. It includes two sanctuaries, the Chandoli National Park and the Koyna Wildlife Sanctuary. The name of the reserve comes from the Sahyadri range, which is part of the Western Ghats.
Maharashtra also starts off the Western Ghats, which go all the way into Kerala. So there also big diversity is there. So yeah, Maharashtra is in a very, I would say it's like fitting in a nice cog in the whole wildlife, central Indian wildlife landscape.
The most beautiful views of the misty mountains and the waters in the dam below can be had from various points in the Chandoli National Park. Dense forests, clouds that come almost below the horizon, and the still calm waters of the dam. A safari in the Chandoli National Park is as much about wildlife as it's about glimpsing nature at its majestic best. The Sahyadri Tiger Reserve is a crucial tiger corridor spread over 4 districts, Satara, Kolhapur and Sangli and Ratnagiri, and is documented to have been used for the movement of tigers. A jeep safari through the Chandoli National Park will take in dense forests, spectacular views and open grasslands. Watchtowers at various points also give tourists a vantage point of this beautiful reserve. An interesting mango tree is a point in the forest that works like a navigation point. It can be seen from all parts of the sanctuary and it is a popular tourist attraction as it's attached with a local legend that talks about an old woman who saved local villagers in the area from the British forces by pawning her jewelry. The villagers then named this mango tree after her, and it still stands today more than 100 years after the legend began. The Chandoli National Park can also be explored on foot. There are interesting walking trails inside the park that allow tourists to forsake the vehicle and get a feel of the forest by walking on foot. Walking in the forest is an altogether different experience. Butterflies that dot the landscape can be seen up close and personal. Wildflowers and small streams that gurgle and chatter in the forest make nice resting points. Small wayside shrines inside the forest make memorable stops. The flora and the biodiversity of the forest can also be seen at close quarters in these hikes.
From a botanist point of view, you have such an array of plants and flowering trees and fungi. And then, of course, the insect life and snakes is fantastic. So there is so much to be explored.
For the really adventurous, the forest trail goes right up to a plateau that overlooks the sanctuary, and the trek to the top is well worth it for the views that it offers. Radhanagari Wildlife Sanctuary is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is in Kolhapur district and also located in the Sahyadris like Chandoli. But it is located in the southern tip of the mountain range in the Sahyadris subcluster of the Western Ghats. Also known as the Bison Sanctuary, its flagship species is the bison or the Indian gaur.
That's a key species over there. But if you look at any sanctuary or any tiger reserve, basically what the forest department does is they use a particular species as an umbrella species. Let's take, for example, the bison or the gaur, which is there. Just protecting the gaur, underneath the gaur there are so many other animals which automatically get protection. I mean, very small things like in the first rains, you get these red velvet mite, the small animals. Now, if it had not been protected, those mites would have not been there. So, having a bison sanctuary in very close to Kolhapur, as is called Dajipur or Radhanagari, it's actually the northern part of Karnataka and the southern part of India, which that whole, again, contiguous forest is there. One of the most pristine habitats still left, where you can do amazing kind of wildlife tourism.
This shy animal can be spotted in herds and often alone. There are about 600 bisons in the sanctuary, and the best place to spot them is an open grassland on the Shivrai Sada area, which is in the Dajipur range of the sanctuary.
लगभग 28,000 हेक्टर का एरिया है टोटल सेंचुरी का, और मोस्टली यहाँ पे लिपर्ड है, सांबर है, स्पॉटेड डियर है, पैंगोलिन है, देन प्रोक्यूपाइन है, मतलब साड़िंदर बोलते हैं उसको, देन रेप्टाइल्स है, मोनिटल लिजार्ड है, कोबराज है, देन क्रेट है, एंड वाइल्ड पिग है, एंड मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट इज अ गोट.
To promote wildlife tourism in the area, a daily bus service operates from Kolhapur to Radhanagari. Their first stop, a butterfly garden in Radhanagari. Developed with a number of flowering plants and shrubs, the butterfly garden is a popular tourist attraction. Butterflies flit around the flowers, and if you stand really still, they can even come and settle on the camera lens. There are about 70 species of butterflies in the Western Ghats. As they are difficult to spot, the Forest Department has developed this small butterfly garden to give visitors a glimpse of this smaller but as beautiful species of nature.
हमारे गवर्नमेंट ऑफ महाराष्ट्र और वाइल्ड लाइफ कोल्हापुर डिवीज़न की तरफ से एक बस सफारी चालू कर दी है. तो उसके अंदर बस सफारी कोल्हापुर से लगभग सुबह 7 बजे निकलती है. उनको यहाँ पे राधानगरी रेंज में हमारे कैंपस में बटरफ्लाई गार्डन डेवलप किया हुआ है, तो वो दिखाते हैं. और उसके बाद वहाँ से हत्ती महल, मतलब जो शाहू महाराज हमारे ऑनरेबल राजा हुआ करते थे यहाँ पे कोल्हापुर के, वहाँ पे वो हाथी बांधा करते थे. तो वह प्लेस है, हिस्टोरिकल प्लेस है, तो वो वहाँ पे दिखा के फिर वहाँ राधानगरी का एक राउतवाड़ी वाटरफॉल है, तो उसको दिखा के दाजीपुर के लिए निकल जाते हैं. ये 2-3 स्पॉट लगभग मेनली टूरिस्ट के लिए ओपन किए हुए हैं.
After the butterfly garden, tourists often come down to this interesting site, the Hatti Mahal. It is the place where the Chhatrapati ruler of Kolhapur, Raja Shri Sahu Maharaj, would keep his elephants. Known as the Hatti Mahal, this was built to house 12 elephants. These are stalls for each elephant with tall gates, so that the pachyderms could enter and exit easily. The 2-story mahal is an interesting aside where during the tour of Radhanagari, one can take in some history as well. The best place to sight the bison is at the Dajipur range. It is some distance from Radhanagari, but the drive is worth it. On the way, a small detour and a stop at a charming waterfall. The Rotawadi waterfall is a popular tourist attraction. It has water round the year, and during the monsoon when water levels are at full volume, it is visited by many tourists. The Dajipur range is some distance away from Radhanagari. A drive through dense forests, and then forest gives way to open grasslands. The open grassland with rocks, boulders and a water source close by make it the ideal habitat for this endangered species. The wildlife sanctuaries and the national parks at Sagareshwar, Chandoli and Radhanagari are Maharashtra's lesser-known forest trails. Off the beaten track, but a journey into the heart of nature that is well worth it.